Alright, so today we're playing catch up. 3 movies, 3 reviews that are shorter than normal, and 1 slightly sick Austin. Let's get into it. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. I've been wanting to do something like this for a while, so there are always movies that I don't get a chance to watch, whether it's the first day they come out or they're just not big enough to have their own individual YouTube review. I'm always doing stuff on Patreon and Letterboxd, but today I wanted to combine some of these newer films and do one giant review video that hopefully is not too long. Now, obviously, these reviews are going to be a bit shorter than normal, but if you want to see my full expanded thoughts, you can check out all of these written reviews on Letterboxd. And the first movie we're talking about today is the brand new film that released on VOD, that is The Night Clerk. So let's get right into it. A voyeuristic hotel clerk becomes the subject of a murder investigation. So Ty Sheridan plays a hotel clerk with autism here, and throughout the entire film, he's trying to figure out how to act normal, or so he says. But the way that he does this is by studying people's conversations. Well, that's not that bad, right? Except he's actually going about it in a slightly illegal way and doing some things that maybe he should not be doing, and he gets caught up in this murder investigation, except maybe he has some evidence that he's not putting forth. Maybe he knows some things that everyone in the situation is trying to figure out, and even his quote-unquote friends or those that work with him are throwing him under the bus, saying, yeah, I've caught him doing some weird things before, but he also gets caught up in a quote-unquote relationship with Ana de Armas's character, who comes by and basically sees him for who he truly is, but she also has some shady things going on in her life. And throughout the entire movie, you're trying to figure out, well, who was involved with what they're investigating? How is he going to come forward with this information, if he does at all? And that sounds like a really interesting premise, and the fact that he's kind of watching some people go about their business in this hotel is a bit weird. But that's all part of the fun. The issue with this movie is the execution, 100% completely, because Ty Sheridan is, I believe, a good actor. He's given some good, solid, entertaining performances, whether you look at his small role in the X-Men movies, Ready Player One. I really like the guy. But this film didn't quite give him the chance to flex his chops completely, because he almost felt as if he was given poor direction. It almost felt as if the actors didn't have a chance to show what they're truly made of. And the biggest example I have for that is Ana de Armas. I believe one of the best up-and-coming actresses in Hollywood. Well, she's not even up-and-coming at this point. She's made her statement, whether it's Knives Out or Blade Runner, and she's going to be in the new James Bond film. She's incredible. And she was great in this film, but her character did not get a lot to do by the end of the story. Now, there are twists, there are turns, but if you strip everything down and you look at the style of this film and how they approached it on a technical standpoint, it almost feels like a mediocre, straight-to-TV movie in the 1990s. I'm talking really poor shot selection. The camera movements did nothing to amplify the story. The dialogue at times sounds really cheesy, and it didn't really come together at the end. They tried to make this movie worth it, but by the time we got into the third act and the quote-unquote turn what it was meant to do for the audience, it felt empty of any sort of emotion, and I sat back going, what was the point of this movie other than to showcase some nice performances? But that wasn't enough for me. So The Night Clerk, for me, was an extremely disappointing film. Did not really do much, and it was poorly executed and poorly edited. And that's why I'm going a 32% for The Night Clerk. Let's move on. I'm slowly getting more hoarse. I'm trying to push through this. So, Guns Akimbo. A guy relies on his newly acquired gladiator skills to save his ex-girlfriend from kidnappers. This film was directed by Jason Lee Howden and stars Samara Weaving, Daniel Radcliffe. I mean, you have all of the makings for something extremely special here, especially when you watch that trailer and you look at the fact that Miles, this character played by Radcliffe, basically has these guns nailed into his hands, and he gets thrown into this very messed up underground reality show, and he has to compete against these crazy people, or one particular crazy person in the character of Nix, played by Samara Weaving, to come out victorious and basically come out alive. And that seems like one of the most interesting premises I've seen in a long time, and I was actually really excited for this movie. I thought it had a lot of potential. And at the end of the day, the film did enough to say there's entertainment value there. Where it started to fall apart for me was actually the execution, was the editing, was the really sloppy direction at times. And obviously, the Twitter controversy with the direction, I didn't want to dive into that, and that had no impact on what my score ended up being. But if you look at the direction, especially from a technical perspective, it was extremely sloppy. It was edited so quick. Now, at times, it would be really interesting, and you'd see the action play out on screen. And when they would slow it down, it almost felt Michael Bay-ish, as did the ridiculous quick cuts and some of that editing back and forth. It was so jarring and you couldn't really tell what was happening. But there were action scenes that were extremely entertaining, and there were some of the gunfights towards the end in the third act that really worked for me. But then you look at the dialogue, and then you look at the way that characters interact. And obviously, it's set up like this Scott Pilgrim-esque world. It's supposed to be distant from reality, and it's not what we see in everyday life. That's obvious. It almost feels satirical. But even then, you look at some of the dialogue and the way that the characters interact and the way that no one is scared. They don't really showcase human emotion when certain things are happening, and that's absolutely fine. Just give us an entertaining and not a predictable story. The story is also really predictable. The villains don't necessarily have that impact that they're going for. People die, very important people in the life of our main character, and it's not handled in a true sense. I just didn't feel a lot of a connection to the story, to the characters, and from a technical perspective, while it was cool, it's definitely a cool movie, it just didn't do it for me. The editing was the big letdown in this film. It's very choppy. You're trying to pay attention to what's happening, and sometimes you just can't really grasp what's going on. All in all, it's entertaining enough. I think a lot of people will have fun with it. But if you're looking deeper than that, it does not have what I was wanting out of Guns Akimbo. So I'm going 50% for Guns Akimbo. And then we have Emma, directed by Autumn Day Wilde. In 1800s England, a well-meaning but selfish young woman meddles in the love lives of her friends. And obviously you have some top-notch talent in here. You have Anya Taylor-Joy, Johnny Flynn, Bill Nighy, Mia Goth. Mia Goth, by the way, oh my goodness, I want her to pop up in everything because she's just this lovable and sweet, and in some roles that she's played not so sweet, but for the most part, I really love what she's doing. And obviously, Anya Taylor-Joy. I mean, she's the reason why we're here in the first place. And this story is basically about Emma going through life, messing up relationships while also enhancing and amplifying her friendships around her. But it's also a period piece set in the 1800s. It's a tad bit exaggerated, meaning the characters are a bit more quirky than they would be in real life. They're a bit amplified when it comes to the laughs or how jealous they get of each other or how these relationships end up playing out, and that's what the movie is about. I had no clue what this was going into it, but it really does focus on the fact that she is in and out of a few different friendships, but she also has this love and this passion, this respect for this character played by Mia Goth, while at the same time, she's almost doing things because it's her own agenda and she's doing them to help herself at, and it takes her a bit to realize that. But at the end of the day, I can say this movie was very well executed. It's well directed, it's well shot. I think the actors and the characters were handled in a respectful way, and the script, and we know this is based off of a novel, obviously, Jane Austen, but it's something that fits in 2020. It fits in modern day. And I'm not saying that because it's pushing some kind of agenda. I'm just saying that because they made this period piece relatable enough and to the point to where it hits on things that we go through now that I think the target audience is going to absolutely love this movie. And I'm seeing a lot of people right now talk about how brilliant this film is, how wonderful the acting is, and how well executed, the direction, all of these things. And that's absolutely the case. Now, did the story hit me like it would someone who maybe read the novel, or like it would hit someone who is going through this particular thing in their lives right now, where they're back and forth and they're in and out of a special friendship? No, I wasn't as invested as I see some fans and critics being, and I'm also just not the biggest fan of a period piece. I'm not the biggest fan of something that takes place in this time period, especially if it wouldn't have had this sense of humor, but that's what this movie has. It has a wonderful sense of humor. Anya Taylor-Joy's performance is truly great, but I mentioned it before and I'll mention it again. I think Mia Goth's character is the shining beacon of this entire story. I just loved her so much. And Emma, at the end of the day, is a good movie. And obviously, you know I feel that way if you watch my best and worst of February. This is my chance to give my score. I'm going 73% for Emma. A solid film, and one that, if you're interested in something like this, I think is worth a watch. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know. Hit that thumbs up button if you guys enjoy these types of videos where I'm putting in multiple reviews into one thing. It's like a big review party. So my voice is still hoarse. I'm sorry if it got a little scratchy toward the end. Puberty's hard. Just kidding. I'm 24. Just kidding again. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you soon.